Okay, so today we're going to talk about data tools that can help us shape economic strategy and measure economic and employment impact in communities across BC. As mentioned, this webinar is organized in partnership with BCEDA and CityViz. I'm Sasha Bogdanovic. I'm the CEO and co-founder of CityViz, together with Isabella, who is also part of this webinar. Um, for those of you who are not familiar with CityViz, CityViz is a data platform for economic development, which helps communities tell their story with data. And for that purpose, we provide a number of data tools such as data portal, website widgets, different interactive maps, and so on. So those data tools are used by different kinds of organizations. First of all, we work mostly with municipalities, but also regional districts, chambers of commerce, as well as regional organizations, not only across BC, but also across Canada, so in other provinces as well. And the organizations we mentioned here are just a few, to name a few from BC. Um, the goal of our data tools is to equip economic developers with all that information available from various data sources and be able to provide better understanding of local economies. Like standard CityViz data portal and data platform already includes vast amount of information, but we are always on the lookout for new data sources and how we can improve the product and how we can add more value and support you better in your day-to-day work. Last year, in partnership with three economic trusts across BC, so with ETSI-BC, Northern Development, and Island Coastal Economic Trust, we developed the Economic Dependencies Dashboard. So this is by far the most advanced tool when it comes to painting the pictures of the economies at the local level. The deployment started first with ETSI-BC, well, about 1 year today, so it's June last year. Then in somewhere in August and in September, Northern Trust and ICT launched as well and support them to be able to support communities in their service areas better. Since then, we heard from a number of communities that they have been using these tools for various purposes, and today we'll take a closer look in what these tools provide and how can they help you add more value to your work and improve the quality of life in the communities that you are supporting. Economic Dependencies Dashboard is also known as Local Area Economic Dependencies, used to be known as Local Area Economic Dependencies. It is the model which is developed by BC Stats, so you're all familiar with BC Stats, the Statistical Department of BC provincial government, so they provided the data as well. This model is based on data from census 2021 and 2016, but not only, so that's the foundation. But on top of that, BC Stats has applied the BC macroeconomic model, which includes input-output model, multipliers, and so on, which basically allow us to kind of find the dependencies and relations between different industries. The model provides the data which is available at regional district and so-called local area level. Overall, across BC, there are 103 local areas. So typically they are population centers and they also include the rural areas surrounding them as well as First Nations. So overall across BC, there are 103 of those local areas. So BC Stats created that model and grouped communities together based on similarities in their economies. Apart from that, so that's the level that we can provide these indicators at. The model provides insights into some advanced economic indicators, which include, so I'll just mention a few: industry diversity index, and that can answer the question how much the economy is diversified or specialized in your community, so in your municipality or in your local area or in your regional district. Then location quotient. So, are you specialized in one particular industry more than BC average? Then employment impact. So employment impact is a really good one. It measures the impact of creating new jobs in any particular industry, and what does it mean for supporting industries. So, for example, if you create 100 jobs in, let's say, forestry, what does that mean? How many new jobs will be created based on that in industries which are supporting forestry, such as transportation, wood manufacturing, and so on. Then income dependencies is another economic indicator available in this model. And it answers the question how much we are reliant on different income sources. So these income sources can be either particular industries or like tourism or manufacturing or forestry, but it also includes other income sources such as market income, government transfers, and so on. With that, there is one caveat about the data because the most recent census data is from Census 2021, which was conducted in the middle of the pandemic when federal government was issuing a lot of support programs to support communities. So the numbers are a little bit skewed when it comes to measuring the income dependencies because in many of the communities, government transfers would show up as the major source of income. So when the next census is published, that will change. So looking forward to that. Another advanced economic indicator included in the model are the local supply shares, and it tells us if the community or region is a net importer or exporter of services. So can it satisfy its own demand, or does it supply more than it needs so it can practically export to neighboring communities, or does it need to import those services from its neighbors? It also helps us answer some key economic development questions, and I just threw out a few, like what are the industries that perform above or below provincial averages? How can potential investors better understand the community? How vulnerable the community is in changes and major shifts in particular industries? How diverse is the economy? How the employment by industry is changing, and so on. So these are just a few, as I said, like there is a really vast amount of data presented in a very compact way, which can answer really huge number of questions when it comes to economic development. After launching that tool, the Economic Dependencies Dashboard with three trusts, the feedback that we got from not only from the trust but also from the communities using the tools was really overwhelmingly positive. However, some of the communities wanted to take that a step further. So in particular, we worked closely with Portal Burnley. So they had the initiative at the time where they needed to understand which industries would be good candidates for diversifying the economy in the community. So we took another step in adding more value to the product and developing another level where we added the analysis and created a tool which we call Economic Strategy and Employment Impact Tool. So it contains three different sections. One is the comparative matrix of industries, which kind of consolidates all that information based on those advanced indicators. Then there is the automated insights and recommendations. So this is the tool which basically lets you know which industries are good candidates for example, diversification or strengthening or recovery, depending on what's the goal of your economics development strategy. And finally, there is the employment impact calculator, which estimates the impact of creating new jobs. So we mentioned the employment impact ratio as one of those advanced indicators. So it allows us to create a calculator like this where communities can, for example, project the number of new jobs created in any particular industry and get an estimate of what is the impact in creating indirect and induced jobs, as well as what is the actual financial impact of creating those new jobs in terms of basic income. So with that, I will stop with the slides and I will go to first show the Economic Dependencies Dashboard tool, which we deployed with economic trusts. So each trust and a number of communities have used this already, and maybe some of you are already aware of. But we wanted to showcase this and provide, like shed more light into what kind of data is available and what kind of insights you can get here. Here with this tool, we developed somewhat, we called it Navigation 2.0. So here the tool by default shows the map of the HCBC service area in this case, and number of people living in regional districts in service area. And the charts, two charts, the tree map and the bar chart on the right-hand side shows those numbers as well. But we can change that. So first of all, while we're still within the basic stats topic, and there are a number of topics we can select from here. So within each topic, we can select a number of different indicators. So by default, it shows the population, but we can see also, for example, average employment income. So now all the charts change and they show new values based on the current selection in our navigation. And this is the view at the regional district. But what is super interesting is the view at the local area level. So we mentioned 103 local areas across BC. Here within HCBC service area, there is, I think, 33 or 35, something like that. So now we see the map breaks down by those local areas which are part of HCBC service area, and the functionality is the same for other trusts as well. So on click on the map, we get the pop-up with actual value, and the tree map also shows us the actual value, and on the right-hand side, we see also a change. So how this particular indicator changed between census years of 2016 and 2021. So majority of communities, the average employment income has increased by a certain percentage, and they're highlighted in green. For those where it went down, unfortunately, it's in gray. And then same applies. So if we switch any of these indicators within the current topic, the charts redraw. So another interesting indicator is the economic diversity or industry diversity index. So it tells us how diverse the economy is in any of these regions. And again, here, so the range of the index is from 0 to 100. That's the minimum maximum. The value across BC is, in fact, there is a community which is 100% reliant on forestry. So there is even such an extreme case. But overall, like BC diversity index is 69. So the higher the index means more diverse industry, dependent on various industries. And if the diversity index is lower, it means that your community or region is more specialized in one particular industry or a mix of couple of industries. So there isn't really not that diversity in that sense. And on the right-hand side, we can see the diversity practically declined between those two census years across the service area at CBC. So here we can also zoom in and take a closer look into any of the charts. So those are some basic statistics, but let's take a look into those other topics. So for example, when you select, let's say I selected income dependencies. So now within the topics, we get individual industries. So first of all, how much the communities in HCBC service area are reliant on forestry, for example. So we can see that, for example, golden is the highest, so 0.158, sorry. So it means that that's the ratio of employment income which is coming from the forestry in these communities. So the higher the value, the more the basic income within the community is reliant on the selected industry. And if we change the selection, then it updates accordingly. If we go with tourism, for example, then we see something else. And again, the comparison where that dependency increased or decreased between the two census years. So those are the income dependencies. Then jobs, that shows us just number of jobs. So it's a relatively simple indicator. So now we see by local area, so what's the total number of jobs, and we can also go and look up by individual industries, for example, logging or wood manufacturing. So how many people are employed in any of these industries, and again, increase or decline in employment. Then location quotient. So location quotient tells us here also when I select the different topic, like for example, location quotient, there is a description which provides the explanation of what this particular topic or indicator is about. So in the case of location quotient, it is actually a measure of how specialized, how reliant the community or region is on any particular industry compared to the provincial average. So provincial average is one, and then the local one can be, or regional one can be either greater than one, exactly equal one, or smaller than one. So if it's greater than one, it means that the community or region is more specialized in that particular industry compared to the provincial average. And how it is measured, so it takes, for the provincial average, it takes just the number of, let's say, so for forestry, so it takes the number of people employed in forestry in BC and divides that by overall employment across all industries, and it gets a certain ratio. Then it takes the selected community. For example, if we take a look at, let's say, Princeton, so 7.53. So it takes the number of jobs in forestry in Princeton, divides it by total number of jobs in Princeton, and it gets a ratio for Princeton. And then it divides a Princeton ratio with a provincial ratio. So if Princeton ratio is greater than the provincial one, then the index will be greater than one, and in this case, much more greater. And then we have some, for example, Kelowna 0.54, so half the provincial average. The industry in Kelowna is specialized in forestry, half of what is on the provincial level. So the selection here is just for those different industries. And again, it works in the same way. So we can change the selection and the charts update automatically based on that. The next indicator is the employment impact, sorry. So this is the ratio which measures how many new jobs will be created if we create jobs in one particular industry. So I mentioned the example of forestry or logging, let's say. So if you add, I don't know, 100 jobs in logging, how many jobs will be created in wood manufacturing, in transportation, in utilities, and stuff like that. So that impact can be, it has two levels. One is the number of indirect jobs created based on jobs created in logging, for example. And so that's in those industries which directly support forest logging. And then there is the induced impact as well, which is somewhat longer term effect because now we have, so we created, let's say, 100 jobs in logging. And let's say in central Okanagan, it created, if the index is 1.4, it means for 100 jobs in logging, it will create 40 jobs in supporting industries such as transportation and wood manufacturing. So now we have three industries where we created jobs. So now we have 100 jobs. So now we have different set of industries which is supporting also transportation and wood manufacturing and so on. So that impact multiplies, and that second layer or longer term effect is called the induced number of jobs, and that is measured as well. So that's the view at this service area level. So it's the same across other trusts as well. We'll provide the links for those who don't have, who are not aware about the availability of this tool. So here we have the local supply shares. So local supply shares, again, there is a description of the topic and some key insights, which are kind of AI powered here in the bottom right corner, which interpret the data which is presented in the charts. So local supply shares topic tells us, I explained that, so how self-sufficient the community is, can it satisfy its own demand or not? So for example, here, let's say, this is limited to service industries. So for example, if we go to, let's say, utilities, then we see, for example, Kootenai boundary 1.38. So it means it's practically has more supply in utilities industry compared to its own demand, so it can export the services into other areas. And on the other hand, for example, Okanagan single coming is 0.78. It means it needs some support. But at the same time, this is also the opportunity because it means it's a gap. So new businesses can be created which can fill in that gap. So really, all this data can be looked at in wide variety of ways, and it can answer a lot of questions. So that was the view on the across the entire service area, and it allows us also to benchmark because the map is also highlighted by values for the selected topic and indicator. For those of you who are wondering what RAC is, that's something which is specific to HCBC and I think Northern Trust as well. So that's Regional Advisory Committee. So they split their service area into their committees. So if we into those regions, so if we select, for example, that, only then it narrows down all the data to currently to those regions which are in Columbia, Kootenai. And if you go with Thompson Okanagan, then it shows us the remaining part of HCBC service area. And in northern part, I think there's a little bit more of them. So that's the overall view, and then we can zoom in into each individual regional district or local area. So the views for at regional district and local area level is more or less the same. So we see all those indicators presented in a compact way, plus some more data here. So for example, here when we go into regional district view, in the drop down, now we have the list of all regional districts within HCBC service area. And again, by switching that drop down, it updates those charts automatically. So the data that we see here is those are basically the same indicators as we've seen in the entire region view, just that right now we are focused only on the currently selected regional district. So we see overall population, overall number of jobs, what is the average employment income, how it compares to BC average, what is the basic income share? So basic income share would be those which is coming from the employment impact and so on. So from production. Industry diversity index. So scale of the diversity index is from 0 to 100. BC index 69, and all regional districts within across BC are in the range from 51 to 74. So this kind of provides us context of what this number means. So if you know, okay, so my industry diversity index is 71, but what does that mean? So it gives us the view, for example, that it's above, in the case of East Kootenai, slightly above BC index, and it's almost the top of the range across all regional districts. And similar, there is the forest sector vulnerability index. Again, scale is from 0 to 100, and BC index is 6. So the higher the index means the community or region is more vulnerable to downturns in the forestry sector. And here it also says that all regional districts range from 0 to 43. And then in the charts, so first, so those are like, if just go quickly back to entire region. So there are 6 overall topics here for selection. So those are the exact same 6 that we see here in the chart. So in these panels. So basic statistics, which tell us a number of jobs, population, and it also compares. So it compares the change within the community as well as in across BC. So green is the local or regional one, in this case the regional, so regional district, and the gray is BC. So it also tells you, for example, forest sector vulnerability index in East Kootenai increased 57.1% from the 2016 census. So it increased more than overall in BC, where it increased by 50%. And then there's the raw data as well in the second tab. So each of these panels has typically more than one tab. So we see for location quotient like top industries, by location quotient. Here there is the question mark. So again, if you need explanation what that the indicator is, you just click this question mark next to the name of the indicator, and there's this pop-up which gives us the explanation. Then we see all industries. Again, when in chart like this, when there are some tiny ones, we can just expand and see in full screen how they stack up against each other. And then there are the major changes. So which industries increased the most by location quotient and which one declined. So that's the location quotient. Total number of jobs by industry. Again, we see first all industries, then we see major changes. So which industries increased by number of jobs for the selected regional district, and also how it compares to the to British Columbia overall. Then we have employment impact ratio. So employment impact ratio tells us, again, that's how many secondary jobs will be created if we create a specific number of jobs in any of these industries. So here we see those indexes in the East Kootenays regional district. Again, we can see which industries have increased or declined when it comes to that impact, measuring that impact. And then we can see the same thing across BC. So what are those indexes across BC? Local supply shares, so again, so that's how much the self-sufficient the area or region is in any of these industries. So we can see, here we highlighted those which are 100% and above. They are highlighted in green. It means that community can satisfy its own demand. Those below 100% mean that there is an opportunity, or either so the community will either import those services from elsewhere, or new businesses can be created to satisfy that demand, which cannot be, for which the supply doesn't exist locally. And again, there is also, we measure the change between those two census years. And finally, the income dependencies. So this is the interesting one. So I mentioned, because the census 2021 was conducted in the middle of the pandemic. For majority of communities or regions, government transfer income shows up as the top source of income. But we know that that's the caveat. So when the new data comes out, hopefully that contribution will go down and we'll see more of other industries. Also here we can see mining, oil and gas, almost 20%, non-employment market income, public sector, other basic income, construction industry, forestry, tourism, agriculture, and then there is high-tech manufacturing and a little bit of film and TV production. Then again, we can see how any of these sources of income, how their impact changed, and we can see how much more the government transfer income has increased between those two census years. Also, this kind of also tells us that impact of the pandemic and how much government was contributing to what was happening at the time. And then finally, we see the numbers, overall numbers, so average across BC. Again, even across the entire province, government transfer income is the main one. So that's the view at the regional district. So for those of you who are working with regional districts, you can use this data to kind of understand which communities maybe need some additional support from regional districts. And here, all right, okay. Yeah, so okay, so you all know what your regional districts are comprised of. But here, if we go to local areas, so this is the specific of the BC model. So it breaks down, we mentioned the entire BC into 103 local areas. So here we see only those which are part of ETSI-BC service area. For Northern Trust, we would see those which are in the Northern Trust, and for IST, we would see those which are on Vancouver Island and on the coast. So here again, similar to the previous view, if we change the view, the charts automatically update and we see the data which pertains to currently selected local area. Here there is the information what are the communities which make up those local areas. So generally it would always be like here in the town, in the case of Creston local area, there's town of Creston and then central Kootenays A, B, and C electoral areas. And then there is the Lower Kootenay Indian Band as well, Creston 1. So it will be more or less the same for any local area that we select. It will always be like one population center and then electoral areas or First Nations in the surrounding it. So here, when practically it works the same way as the regional district view. So we see the same indicators in the same way, but in this case, it's focused on local areas. So this goes really a long, long way in getting insights into those economic indicators at a more local area level. So, and this is something like we've been working with communities across Canada, and for sure, one of the most asked question is how can we get access to quality local data? And that's always a challenge. And the challenge comes from obviously the methodology which is used for data collection. And that's why census is the basis for this model because it contains the most extensive data set when it comes to getting an insights into our communities. By having access to this data at the local level, I think it really goes a long way in understanding what is happening in our local regions. And I think the fact that they grouped one population center and the surrounding rural areas and First Nations is good because the economies can be more or less similar in those areas. So we can get a much better understanding compared to, for example, data that we get more frequently at the economic region level. So, for example, if we talk about Kootenay, it covers really a vast area, and the economies can differ greatly between some of the communities across the economic region. So, having something like this really goes a long way, and especially because it provides those advanced indicators. So I'm not sure, excuse me, if there is the need to, I'm not going to open up each and every of these. It's the same as we've seen with the regional district, just that it's at the local area level. And this should be all local areas which are available in the HCBC service area. So, for example, so Central Okanagan. So in Central Okanagan, we have Kelowna, Lake Country, Peachland, and West Kelowna. So here, West Kelowna has its own local profile, but it contains the First Nations, so two Indian reserves. If we go with, for example, Kelowna itself, it will also include a couple of, yeah, so it includes Lake Country as well, one electoral area and one First Nation. So yeah, even in Central Okanagan, we can break down and get a little bit more closer insight into those local areas. Further to the visualizations that we've seen so far, there is also raw data available, and again, so it's filtered by communities and regions which are in the each individual trust service area. And here again, we can do the same kind of selection as we did before. So if we get, for example, jobs topic, then we see number of jobs by regional district or by local area. So really good granularity here by all those indicators, and same applies to others as well. Then there is a little bit of explanation about the entire framework, the methodology, what are the data sources, how are sectors aggregated. So, for example, if we talk about forestry, it breaks down further into logging and wood manufacturing, and then each of them includes a number of other four-digit NAICS codes. So here we can see that forestry is comprised of both logging and wood manufacturing. And if we go back to any view here, so let's say local area, we can see, or let me go to entire region. So if I take even here, so there is. Uh, the employment impact. So there is forestry, and then separately, so even though it includes logging and manufacturing, so we can have like a composite numbers for the forestry sector, and then also for logging and wood manufacturing individually. So there's that kind of granularity as well. There are also the list of local area boundaries. So how are communities grouped into those local areas? And again, the list here is limited to what is part of HCBC local area. And if we go, so let me just open quickly the Northern Trust one, for example. So if you go to About section, then we will see the local area boundaries, which are part of Northern Trust service area. And again, the functionality is the same and the same kind of data, just that different communities. And finally, there is also the user guide. Also, the user guide, it's a PDF document which is embedded here. If you hover above it, there's this the button which shows like the arrow down. It can perform the downloads to your local computer so that you can have access to user guide. And I have it open here so I can just quickly, yeah, so you can read it at your own convenience. So each region has its own user guide, even though they are more or less the same. They're just branded different. So that's about economic dependencies dashboards, which are available for those three economic trusts. And as I said, we heard the success stories from communities which have used these tools for example, grant applications and so on. But I mentioned that we have developed the extension of this tool, and it's also important to mention that it is possible to deploy this tool at your regional district level or at your community levels, whether it's a municipality or a chamber of commerce or anything else. And we have a number of examples where communities have deployed that on their data portals if they use CityViz. So I wanted to show you Portal Bernie. So that's data. Choose Portal Bernie. So this is the data portal powered by CityViz. So this is the CityViz data platform deployed for Portal Bernie. And we have implemented for Portal Bernie and a number of other our client organizations economic dependencies as a part of their data portal, even though it can be implemented even separately, so irrespective of the entire CityViz data platform. So it can be standalone and made available even for organizations which are not using CityViz data platform otherwise. So here it's more or less similar to what we've seen at the tool which is deployed for economic trusts, just structured somewhat differently and maybe a little bit more information over there. So again, basic statistics, number of jobs by industry, income dependencies. So here, for example, with jobs by industry, we measure both percentage change as well as the absolute change. And the reason for that is, for example, maybe an industry grew by 100%, but if that industry had, I don't know, 20 people and then now they have 40 people, yes, it grew by 100%, but the overall impact is actually much lower if some other industry grew by, I don't know, 20%, but it actually added 1,000 of jobs. So for that reason, we captured both the percent change as well as the absolute change across those industries. So now we see income dependencies. So now everything is focused on, so these are only numbers for Portal Bernie, for Alberni local area, which again on hover, we get information what are the communities included. So that's Portal Bernie, and then a number of First Nations and a couple of electoral areas as well. Location quotient, so how much the community is specialized in any of these industries. So first we see like the main one, so what are the strongest ones, and then also all the others across the industry and how each of them changed between the two census years. Employment impact, comparison to BC as well. Local supply shares, so how much self-sufficient it can be on any of these industries. Then we have the definitions. It's basically the same description of the model, what are the data sources, and how the sectors and local areas aggregated, as well as some limitations and caveats about the data. But this is the tool that we developed as an extension to Economic Dependencies Dashboard when we started working with Portal Bernie. So the first section here is the industry matrix. So it's like the compact view of all those indicators. So here in the table on the left-hand side, we can sort the table so we can see basically a cross-section of all industries and all those advanced indicators so that we can get a view at a glance, how each of these industries is doing across any of these indicators, or which of the indicators are particularly important for any of the industries. The chart on the right-hand side is also basically the same data, showing several dimensions of the data. So we have first the axis. So on the x-axis, we have the location quotient. So the further the bubble is to the right on the chart, it means the community is more specialized in that industry. So location quotient is greater compared to provincial average. And if it's closer to one, it means it's relatively around the provincial average. Then on the y-axis are the number of jobs. So the higher the bubble is on the chart, it means more job in that particular industry. Then there is the dimension employment impact, which is coded with a color. So the more red the color means the higher employment impact. So for example, here public sector employment impact is 1.12. So for every 100 jobs created in public sector, it would create 12 jobs in supporting industry, maybe transportation or something like that. And on the other hand, we have, for example, okay, Aboriginal government, maybe this one, wood manufacturing employment impact is 1.36, so the color is hotter. And for example, other, okay, we have other industries as well. That's an aggregation where employment impact is 1.73. And here on the chart, we can select just a portion of the chart so that we can zoom in and see better those other industries as well. And finally, there is the size dimension, which also depicts income dependency. So the larger the bubble, the more dependent the community is based on any of these industries. But the industry matrix is just a consolidation, basically, of the data that we've seen in all these previous charts and tabs. The novelty here is the economic strategy. So here you can select whether you want to diversify your economy, or if you want to strengthen the industries which are already doing well, or if you want to focus on recovery. So whenever you select, it changes the selection. So here those are collapsible panels, so we can basically the industries are grouped into meaningful groups. So we see what are the industries which are good candidates for strengthening the economy. If we go with, for example, diversification, then we have a different set of industries. Maybe some of them will be overlapping, so maybe they are good for both diversification and good candidates for strengthening. And there are those flags which tell us why are they good candidates. So, for example, here diversification, so location quotient stable, jobs are stable, employment impact is low. So if we increase that, increase support for this industry, it can. So it's underrepresented locally compared to provincial average and relatively small number of jobs. Also, if we support that industry, it will help and go a long way in diversifying the economy in the region. And if we go, for example, with recovery, then we get obvious candidates: forestry, wood manufacturing, also high local concentration compared to provincial average. Large base means a relatively high number of jobs. However, both location quotient has been decreasing and number of jobs has been shrinking. So those industries, both forestry as an overarching sector and wood manufacturing, are struggling and they need support. So by using these recommendations and insights, policymakers can make use of that and make informed decisions which industries need support and how they can make the best use of the resources that they have at their hands to support the economic growth or recovery or resilience in the community. And if, for example, here if we go with diversification, there's a relatively large number of industries which are candidates for that. So we can use some of the filters here. So we can focus on, for example, those where, let's see if there are industries where the job is shrinking. So we select that. Okay, there is none. Or maybe jobs are growing. We apply that. So they are stable. Okay, they're all stable. So we can mix and match those filters, and maybe location quotient is increasing. So those industries which are kind of on the rise, but with additional support, they can go a long way in diversifying the economy. So now we get only a subset of industries, so food processing, utilities, and other. And description for other, it should be available probably here under definitions and sector aggregations. So probably there is the explanation for other as well. Yeah. Okay, so that's the economic strategy, and then there is the economic impact calculator. So economic impact calculator lets you estimate the impact of creating new jobs across industries in the community or region. So let's say if we go with wood manufacturing, and then if we create 50 new jobs, so what does that mean? It means it would help create 18 indirect jobs, which are within the industries which are supporting wood manufacturing. And then because now we have multiple industries which are growing, it has also an induced longer term effect. And it would mean 42 additional jobs in industries which are now supporting both wood manufacturing and those industries which are directly supporting wood manufacturing. So overall, for 50 jobs created in wood manufacturing, we would get in a longer term 110 new jobs in the community. And here we also measure the what's the economic impact, so financial impact. First, impact on number of jobs. So 50 new jobs would be 1% of overall jobs in the community. It would be 9.8% of jobs within the sector. It would also mean additional $4.5 million in basic income within the community based on those new jobs and new economic activity. And overall, it's 0.6% of total basic income within the community. So this goes really a long way also to estimate the impact of your policies and how you can support your industries and businesses in your community, and what does it mean overall for the community. And finally, there is the usage guide, which kind of explains how this tool can be used. So that's what I had to show. And finally, just a quick quote from Pat Deakin, who is the Economic Development Manager with City of Port Alberni. So this is his feedback on the CityViz data platform overall, but this section is particularly relevant for economic dependencies, so what we've seen today. So what he said is that the economic dependencies has emerged as one of the most used tools since they deployed CityViz, and in the 2.5 months at the point when he gave this testimonial. So in the 2.5 months since the data became available, we have used it for grant applications, master plan for another municipal department, and orientation sessions with the council. So within a couple of months, really, the tool has been used in highly relevant activities in the community. So that's everything I had to say for today and present for you. As I mentioned, we will share the link to the recording and the slides as well. So you will also have the links to those resources, so to economic dependencies dashboards, which are deployed for the economic trusts. As well as a few of those also linked to Portal Bernie, and we have some other communities which are now adopting that tool. So what I've shown for Portal Bernie can be deployed irrespective. So even if you don't use CityViz data platform, it can be deployed independently as an embeddable widget. So that's also possible. So if anybody would like to take that conversation further, please feel free to reach out. My email address is sasha@cityviz.ca. You can reach me at 250-317-5636. or you can book a demo on our website, cityviz.ca/demo. So whenever it works for you, we have a shared calendar, so you can just go in and book a demo when it's convenient for you. And now I would also like to open up for questions. So there's about 6 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to either raise your hand or type in the chat.
I've got a comment. We did our recent Economic Development Leadership Learning Exchange in Nanaimo back in November, and one of our instructors is responsible for reviewing grants. And he said when an economic impact is attached to a grant, it really, really helps the people who are analyzing the submissions to make their decisions. It's really important and it's a real bonus. And also a question in the chat, Sasha. We're so lucky that the trusts have sponsored the economic dependencies dashboards for the Northern Trust region, for the Southern Interior region, and the Island Coast region. What about the Lower Mainland? What can people do to access data in the Lower Mainland?
Yeah, so that's a great question. As I mentioned when I spoke about the local areas, BC Stats has split the entire BC into those 103 local areas. So there is data available for Lower Mainland as well. It's just that we worked with economic trusts in this particular case, covering almost like the majority of the territory of BC and many communities. So the data exists, just that nobody really tapped into that and to visualize that kind of data. So if there is a regional initiative, we can definitely go in and help, just like we did with economic trusts. If there is a request from individual community, again, we can help individual communities as well in making sense of all this and having all that data accessible and available at their fingertips to be used for investment attraction, for business recovery, and expand for business retention expansion, for grants, and for many other, even for internal purposes like council presentations and yeah, for other departments too, planning or yeah, anything else, communications. So yeah, if I don't know, I see in the chat Kim asked that question. Also, Kim, you can use any of the contact details, and then we can take that conversation further. So the data exists, everything that I've shown before exists and can be deployed either at the regional or local level. And again, maybe just maybe relevant for Lower Mainland, as we've seen in the example of Central Okanagan. So even though it's a larger community in the metro area, still the data is split into individual communities or local areas. So we have several local areas over there. So the same applies for Lower Mainland as well. So we can get the insight not only on the entire region, but also individual ones. Uh,
Great. Do we have any more questions? Hearing none from the floor. And with respect to your time, I think we'll close for today. Thank you to Sasha for that wonderful presentation and valuable information. Again, Sasha's contact information is on the screen if you'd like to reach out. BCEDA members do receive a discount on CityViz products. Again, my name is Ashley with the BC Economic Development Association. I'm wishing you a wonderful weekend ahead and a wonderful summer. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for attending the session. And it was really a pleasure in shedding more light to this really important data set. And yeah, looking forward to see what you guys make of it and, for the benefit of our communities. Thanks, everyone.